finally crossed the massive, psychological threshold of a six-figure corporate salary. You proudly updated your professional digital profile, you leased a brand new luxury vehicle, and your entire extended family genuinely believes you have finally won the global financial game. You are completely, terrifyingly wrong. From a strictly clinical and mathematical perspective, you are much closer to absolute financial ruin than the individual making minimum wage. The global economic matrix is currently shifting violently, and institutional wealth managers have deployed highly advanced, invisible extraction algorithms designed exclusively to drain the modern high-income middle class. The window of opportunity to convert your massive corporate salary into actual, untouchable generational equity is closing permanently this year as silent inflation accelerates. If you click away and ignore this clinical reality today, you will voluntarily spend the next 40 years operating as a beautifully dressed, highly stressed biological battery for the banking elite, losing millions of dollars to a system you do not even understand. Wall Street desperately hides the exact mathematical architecture of this trap to ensure you remain a profitable, perfectly obedient corporate hostage. But if you stay here, you will learn the exact, undeniable biological mechanism of why your six-figure salary guarantees poverty, and you will master the elite exit protocol to build invisible sovereignty before the system drains your future completely. Society has deeply and systematically conditioned you to believe that a massive corporate paycheck is the ultimate final finish line of human success. You assume that because you make over $100,000 a year, you are completely immune to the daily economic struggles of the working class. This is the single most dangerous psychological hallucination of the modern era. Earning a high active income does absolutely nothing but increase the speed and the violent volume of paper currency flowing through your hands. If you do not possess the cold, calculating financial literacy required to aggressively capture that cash and convert it into hard, unyielding assets, your high income actually accelerates your permanent financial destruction. You are actively participating in what clinical economists refer to as the high earner, not rich yet phenomenon. You look incredibly wealthy to your coworkers, you project absolute authority in executive meetings, but your actual liquid net worth is completely flat. True sovereign wealth is absolutely never measured by how much paper currency you can manually generate through exhausting physical and mental corporate labor. It is strictly mathematically measured by how long you could comfortably and safely survive if your active corporate labor stopped completely today. For the vast majority of high-income earners who are heavily faking their success, that survival timeline is terrifyingly short. Usually, it is less than 30 days. This massive psychological blind spot is compounding aggressively against you every single week. Social media algorithms actively hide this exact mathematical truth to keep you mindlessly consuming. Ignore this next biological reality and become entirely financially obsolete today. The illusion of synthetic leverage. Let us clinically examine the brutal, undeniable reality of your personal balance sheet. The fatal flaw of the high-income earner is that you mathematically confuse your massive corporate borrowing capacity with your actual, tangible net worth. Because your biweekly direct deposit from the massive corporation is so large, commercial banks eagerly grant you massive credit limits, premium metal reward cards, and enormous residential mortgages. When you log into your digital banking application and see a $50,000 available limit, your fragile ego instantly inflates. You genuinely believe that this massive borrowing power is real leverage and that the financial institutions respect your status. This is absolute, undeniable financial insanity. You have built a massive, incredibly heavy, sophisticated lifestyle using entirely synthetic leverage. Synthetic leverage is using borrowed institutional money to buy depreciating consumer liabilities that simply make you look expensive to complete strangers. You own absolutely zero real equity. You own zero intellectual property. You own zero commercial real estate. You hold zero independent digital business equity. And you have zero automated systems producing value while you sleep. You are essentially renting a highly sophisticated, incredibly stressful lifestyle from massive global corporations. Think about the extreme fragility of your existence. If your company restructured tomorrow morning, if the board of directors decided your executive role was obsolete, and you were suddenly terminated, your prestigious high credit limit would mean absolutely nothing. But the massive fixed debts you accumulated to maintain your synthetic image would instantly crush you and your family. You are operating on a razor-thin margin of error, living in a constant, invisible state of high-stress financial fragility, all while proudly calling yourself a modern success story. Truly wealthy individual, a member of the actual elite 1%, uses leverage strictly to acquire cash-flowing assets that mathematically pay for their lifestyle. You, on the other hand, use your high corporate salary as a desperate, exhausting guarantee to the commercial bank just so they can heavily finance your personal vanity. Neurochemistry of golden handcuffs. We must ruthlessly expose the biological mechanism that keeps you completely paralyzed in this terrifying illusion. Corporate institutions utilize a brilliant, scientifically perfected psychological concept known as the golden handcuffs. They pay you just enough money to completely numb your original, youthful ambitions of true freedom, but absolutely not enough money to actually let you escape the corporate matrix. Let us look at your brain. Your high-stress executive role constantly, violently drains your finite prefrontal cortex, the logical, calculating, rational center of your brain. By the time Friday evening arrives, you are mentally, biologically, and physically exhausted. To cope with this massive biological stress and prevent a complete psychological breakdown, your primitive amygdala aggressively demands an immediate, massive dopamine release. You order the incredibly expensive premium food delivery, you immediately book the lavish international vacation on a credit card, and you upgrade your designer wardrobe. You mathematically and logically justify this toxic behavior to yourself by saying, "I work 80 hours a week, I deal with incredible corporate stress, I genuinely deserve to enjoy my money." You do not realize that your stress-induced spending is a perfectly calculated variable in the system's design. This is the hedonic treadmill weaponized directly against your neurochemistry. As your corporate income increases, your biological threshold for comfort rises in exact, immediate parallel. You start viewing premium, expensive luxuries as absolute baseline necessities for survival. The exact moment you receive a massive corporate bonus, it is instantly absorbed by a newly financed liability or a lifestyle upgrade. The golden handcuffs ensure that you must continue working your exhausting 80-hour weeks just to service the massive, suffocating overhead of your own stress relief. You are running a marathon at an absolute sprint pace on a financial treadmill that you do not even own. Pay extreme attention right now. What we are about to expose is the single most devastating, entirely legalized wealth extraction mechanism in global existence. If you do not restructure your income immediately after hearing this, you are volunteering for permanent financial slaughter. High-Income Tax Slaughterhouse. The absolute darkest secret of the modern financial matrix, a secret that corporate executives and politicians will never publicly admit, is that the six-figure W-2 corporate employee is the single most violently penalized entity in the entire global economy. You genuinely believe that your high salary elevates you to the upper class, but to the global financial system and the government, you are nothing but raw, highly taxable, beautifully dressed livestock. Wealthy elite, the business owners, the digital equity architects, and the institutional investors operate in a completely different, entirely legal parallel universe. They earn their massive capital, they aggressively spend it on business expansion, massive tax write-offs, and tax-sheltered real estate depreciation. And then only after all of that, they pay a tiny, almost invisible fraction of taxes on whatever small amount is left. Furthermore, they use debt, which is entirely tax-free, to fund their lavish existence without ever triggering a taxable event. You, on the other hand, operate directly in the center of the slaughterhouse. As a high-income W-2 employee, you generate massive, undeniable value for the corporation. But before that money ever touches your personal bank account, the government violently confiscates 30 to 40% of your wealth immediately off the top. You are then forced to survive, pay your massive mortgage, and fund your expensive lifestyle on the heavily taxed remnants. You have absolutely zero tax leverage. You cannot write off your life. The truly terrifying part is that the harder you work, the more aggressively you are penalized. A massive corporate promotion does not bring you closer to true freedom. It simply pushes you into a much higher, more punishing tax bracket where the system extracts an even larger percentage of your unrecoverable, finite life energy. You are heavily subsidizing the elite who actually understand the rules of the mathematical game. Until you shift your income from active, heavily taxable physical labor into passive, tax-sheltered digital or physical equity, your massive corporate salary is just a highly efficient, involuntary donation to the state. Wall Street loves your ego. Why do highly intelligent, highly educated, incredibly capable professionals willingly participate in this destructive, endless cycle? Because your ego is biologically terrified of looking average. Wall Street marketers and corporate behavioral psychologists understand human evolutionary biology significantly better than you do. In ancient human history, when we lived in small tribes of about 150 people, being perceived as low status meant you were denied vital resources, rejected by the group, and left to die in the brutal winter. Your modern brain still carries this exact same biological terror of social rejection. It is hardwired into your DNA. You buy massively overpriced designer clothing, you lease premium European vehicles, and you dine at exclusive restaurants because you are desperately trying to build a synthetic psychological shield. You are using borrowed corporate money to hide your deep, primal insecurities from your coworkers and neighbors. You want the external corporate world to look at your physical possessions and automatically assume you have absolute, unquestionable authority. But true, unshakable authority cannot be purchased at a retail store using a high-interest credit card. The global banking elite completely reject this pathetic, transparent performance. They gladly embrace the temporary discomfort of looking completely average to the untrained eye. Truly wealthy happily drive reliable, older vehicles without an ounce of shame. And they live in highly efficient, modest homes while rapidly acquiring massive, invisible equity in the background. They gladly absorb the brutal, ignorant judgment of broke people because they deeply understand that massive, automated daily cash flow is the absolute only metric that actually matters in the real world. Wall Street actively monetizes your arrogance. Every single time you finance a lifestyle you cannot afford simply to impress people you secretly despise, you pay the commercial banks a massive premium to soothe your fragile ego. You are voluntarily funding their generational empires because you are too weak to look average. The system is perfectly designed to keep you blind and exhausted until it is far too late to recover. The final protocol I am about to reveal is the exact architecture the 1% uses to escape. Execute this today, or remain a heavily financed slave forever. The exit protocol, building real equity. You must aggressively and violently shatter this delusional, heavily financed illusion today. You must embrace the brutal, cold, mathematical reality of your exact financial situation and instantly admit to yourself that despite your high corporate salary, despite your impressive title, you are secretly, mathematically broke. Confess your massive, destructive, ego-driven sins in the mirror right now. The absolute only way to escape the six-figure poverty trap is to completely murder your pathetic need for external social validation. You must aggressively lower your visible status today to instantly skyrocket your actual invisible wealth tomorrow. Break the suffocating, heavy chains of the golden handcuffs immediately. Stop increasing your lifestyle every single time you earn a corporate bonus or receive a promotion. Force yourself to live exactly like you did when you were making half your current salary, and violently deploy every single saved dollar into cash-flowing digital assets, broad index funds, and tax-advantaged commercial real estate. Build a massive, impenetrable fortress of financial friction around your bank account. Stop relying on your highly taxable W-2 income and focus entirely on acquiring massive leverage and generational ownership. Become the silent, incredibly ruthless architect of your own reality. Stop trading your irreplaceable hours on Earth for paper currency that the government prints endlessly. The global financial elite actively suppress this exact psychological truth because they desperately need you to remain a highly paid, perfectly compliant consumer completely addicted to synthetic status. They need you to stay in the slaughterhouse. Subscribe right now to quickly join the elite sovereign minority and master the 1% money mindset today. Stop blindly playing the rigged game they designed perfectly to extract your energy and your future. Master your mind entirely before the system destroys your future. Build your massive fortress of absolute sovereign financial power today. See you in the next elite financial protocol.